There's a quiet desire within every person to feel in control of their life, to feel steady in uncertain moments, to make decisions with clarity, to move forward without being constantly pulled by emotions, distractions, or the opinions of others. And yet, for many, life often feels unpredictable. One moment is calm, the next is chaotic. External events shift, people behave unexpectedly, and the mind reacts, sometimes with stress, sometimes with frustration, sometimes with doubt. The Stoic philosophers of ancient Greece and Rome observed this carefully. They understood that the problem is not life itself. The problem is where we try to find control. Most people attempt to control everything around them. Other people, outcomes, future events. But these things are unstable, constantly changing, and ultimately outside our power. The Stoics offered a different approach. Instead of trying to control everything, they focused on mastering a few essential things within themselves. More than 2,000 years ago, thinkers like Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius taught that true control is not about dominating the external world. It is about mastering the internal one. If you learn to control a few key aspects of your inner life, everything else begins to align more naturally. There are 4 such things. The first is your thoughts. Every experience in life is filtered through the mind. 2 people can face the same situation and experience it completely differently, not because the situation has changed, but because their interpretation of it is different. The Stoics believe that events themselves are neutral. It is our judgment about those events that creates emotional disturbance. If something unexpected happens, the mind may immediately label it as bad, unfair, or frustrating. But this label is not the event. It is the interpretation. Epictetus taught that we are disturbed not by things, but by our opinions about them. When you learn to observe your thoughts instead of immediately believing them, you gain a powerful form of control. Instead of reacting automatically, you begin to choose how to interpret what happens. This does not mean ignoring reality. It means seeing it clearly without unnecessary exaggeration. And in that clarity, the mind becomes calmer. The second thing to control is your emotions. Emotions are natural. They arise without permission: anger, fear, excitement, disappointment. The Stoics did not aim to eliminate emotions. Instead, they focused on guiding them. An uncontrolled emotion can lead to impulsive actions, words spoken in anger, decisions made in frustration, reactions that create regret. But when emotions are observed and understood, they lose their intensity. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself to pause when strong emotions appeared, to examine them, to ask whether they were justified or exaggerated. This simple pause creates space. And in that space, you regain control. Over time, this practice strengthens emotional stability. You begin to respond rather than react. The third thing is your actions. Thoughts and emotions influence behavior, but actions are where your life takes shape. The Stoics believe that regardless of circumstances, a person always retains the ability to choose their actions. Even in difficult situations, even under pressure, even when outcomes are uncertain. Your actions are the clearest expression of your character. They determine the direction of your life. Many people delay action, waiting for the perfect moment or the right feeling. But the Stoics understood that action must not depend on mood. Discipline means doing what is necessary, even when it feels uncomfortable. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself to simply begin the work of the moment. Not to overthink, not to hesitate, but to act with purpose. When you learn to control your actions, you begin to shape your life deliberately rather than passively. The fourth and final thing is your attention. In a modern world, attention is constantly pulled in different directions. Notifications, information, conversations, and endless distractions compete for your focus. Without awareness, your attention becomes fragmented. The mind jumps from one thing to another, never fully present. The Stoics emphasize the importance of directing attention intentionally. Where your attention goes, your life follows. If your attention is scattered, your actions become scattered. If your attention is focused, your actions become effective. By choosing where to place your attention, you regain control over your time, your energy, and your priorities. This may mean focusing deeply on a single task, listening fully in a conversation, or simply being present in the moment. Over time, this practice strengthens clarity and reduces unnecessary mental noise. These four things, your thoughts, your emotions, your actions, and your attention, form the foundation of control. Everything else in life remains uncertain. People will behave unpredictably. Circumstances will change. Outcomes will not always match your expectations. But when these four areas are stable, your inner world remains steady. The Stoics believe that this inner stability is the key to a meaningful life. Because when you're no longer controlled by external events, you become free. Free to think clearly. Free to act with purpose. Free to remain calm in difficulty. This does not mean life becomes easy. Challenges will still appear, but your relationship with those challenges changes. Instead of being overwhelmed, you approach them with clarity. Instead of reacting impulsively, you respond with intention. In the modern world, where uncertainty is constant and distractions are endless, this Stoic approach is more relevant than ever. We cannot control everything that happens around us, but we can control how we think, how we feel, how we act, and where we direct our attention. And when we focus on these four things consistently, something remarkable happens. Life begins to feel less chaotic. Decisions become clearer. Emotions become steadier. And a quiet sense of control begins to emerge. Not control over the world, but control over yourself. In the end, this is the true Stoic idea of mastery. Not the power to change everything around you, but the discipline to guide everything within you. So rather than trying to control every outcome, begin with something simpler. Observe your thoughts, calm your emotions, choose your actions carefully, direct your attention with purpose. Because when you learn to control these four things, you do not just manage your life, you begin to lead it. And in that leadership, there's a kind of freedom that cannot be taken away. A quiet, steady freedom that comes not from external success, but from inner discipline. And once you experience that, you realize something important. Control was never about the world. It was always about you.